part 2 of our discussion on subscriptions on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is sponsored by BetterHelp. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/MacVoices today to get 10% off your first month. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is part 2 of our discussion on subscriptions on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network. This is a cross-post between the two shows, and it is the second part because we split the discussion into 2 sections to make it a little easier for you to get through. Once again, we just want to inform you about the thought process behind subscriptions and why you're seeing so many pop up as opposed to those perpetual licenses that many of us got so used to. With that, let's go back and hear from the panel on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network.
The three of you have been doing such an amazing job of having this great conversation that I've been able to sit here and, for the most part, just watch and soak it in, which is pretty awesome, and I appreciate that. But it also gave me time to sit here and start really thinking about all the software that I'm running across all my devices, which was the impetus for a question. Just generally, how much of the software that you're using is subscription versus perpetual license? And I'm thinking that for me, just in general, I'm probably using more apps, but not by much, that are perpetual license than are subscription. But the percentage of the subscription apps that I'm using is much higher on my mobile devices than it is on my Mac.
Yeah, because on mobile, it barely ever existed. I mean, it was a very brief amount of time where that was a thing, and then subscriptions happened, and since then we've not had anything like that, basically. I was actually think about that. I think for the most part, I'm more on the subscription level. I mean, thanks to Setapp as well.
I was going to say Setapp.
Kind of. That's I think a big reason. Yeah. But I think in general, because I have done development, I've sold apps, I've worked even on private that I never published apps sometimes, and I work professionally in apps, and I know how important subscriptions are for developers. On the other hand, I go to open source. That's neither. That's the third option. I just go to open source alternatives a lot of times. Like if it's not worth the subscription, or I don't like the options that I have, I'll just go open source.
Jeff, without doing an audit, I would have to. I would want to do an audit to answer your question accurately. I tend to think of some of my most.
Someone working in insurances wants to do an audit.
Well, for accuracy's sake, but I tend to think of some of my most important apps as being subscription based. Again, for the security and the reliability angles. Yeah. But I want to take, Jeff, I want to take you on the Setapp tour, or the Setapp discussion, because this to me is really important. And it's something that I find annoying about a lot of apps that I might subscribe to. Setapp does such a great job because I'm subscribing to a bunch, frankly, I'm subscribing to a bunch of apps I don't need. I'm subscribing to a bunch of apps I do need or want. And Jeff, you and I did a discussion way back when Setapp was first coming out with the CEO of Setapp. And if memory serves, one of the concerns we had was how do developers get paid? And as I recall, the answer was that the usage of the apps is how the money got divided.
Yes.
Okay, so assuming that still holds true, and Patrice, you're saying yes, Jeff's saying yes. So
that's still true.
I kind of think so. Okay, so the idea that we still haven't seen, does anybody remember micropayments? You know, the idea of So why don't we see more developers engaging in micropayments and saying for a buck or two a year, you can have this app. I would subscribe.
Oh no,
I would subscribe.
That does exist.
Well, it does exist, but not a lot, Patrice, and not for quality apps. I mean, I would subscribe my brains out to a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
But when I start seeing $5 a month, $10 a month, then I look at it and say, gee, is this worth $60 to $120 a year? Is it worth 12 to 24? Yeah, maybe, probably.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that there's a little bit of a money grab going on as part of the trend. And I would encourage developers out there. And look, if you're a developer and I'm offending you, I apologize, because you think your app is worth it, and maybe it is. Only you know what your users are saying. But
there is a bunch of
between what an app is worth based on everything that went into create it. But so difference between that and the perceived value of the app from the customer.
Yeah. So I can tell you something. There is apps that already do that. I was just thinking about a couple. So Callsheet, for example, is $9 a year. I'm just looking at my subscription list. Infuse Pro, for example, is $10 a year. There's I have one, Mimir, for example, I think was $2.99 or $3 a year. There is apps like that. The problem with that is from the developer perspective, you can honestly only do that if it's a side business for you. Because if it's your full-time thing, and the reason for it is not, you need the money to afford your life for that. Yes, that's part of it. The reason for it is apps are freaking expensive to build. People underestimate it's it is just an app. I hear that all day because I work in software development. I hear that all day from a lot of people who are like, this is easy to build. Yeah, sure. Why does it take X hours to do this? This should be switching out this translation should be easy, right? Because they have no clue what goes into that. They do not know why does it take. Yeah, why does it take 6-7 hours to do that? Yeah, because it's not literally just switching out the string. There's more to that at the end of the day. And they don't understand that. And this is the same with development. I mean, I've developed apps, and there are hundreds and thousands of hours that I've invested in it. A good app probably is even more than that. And if you break that down and you say you want to have even a reasonable or even cheap, if you value your time even very low and say whatever, it's minimum labor, $7 a month, $7 an hour, $7.25. Even that adds up if you think about it. And then you look at and say, okay, if someone pays whatever $2 a year, you have whatever 100 or 1,000 users who even want to use it because maybe it's a niche app. I mean, on my apps that I've sold, I did the math, and I think I made 20 cents an hour. So that was fine for me because it was never. For me, the money was never the thing, and I knew the market was small, and I built it for myself and then just sold it to a few people who wanted it. So I didn't care. But if you want to do that as a business, then the cost is $2-3 is not enough for that.
And I would agree completely, and I understand completely, but I think that everybody, both on the consumer side and on the developer side, have to evaluate. Is it better to have a whole lot of little subscriptions or just a few? And again, the developer they know their audience. I don't, but I look at it and it's time. Things that I've looked at and especially on the iPhone that I download and say, this is interesting. But it's not worth $4 a month to me, $3 a month to me.
Yeah.
And so,
and that,
I mean,
and that's where subscriptions like Setapp are great, because that's literally, in my opinion, the only way how that can work. Because you spend a reasonable amount of money to get access to a limited number of apps. You will never use all of them. And every developer gets a little bit, depending on how you use it, because there might be apps that you use once, twice, 3 times, and then you don't need them for half a year. So for sure, it's not worth spending 50 or $100 for that if you're using them twice a year. But for the 2 times a year, they get their share of the subscription. And if that's the only app that they use in a month, they get even the full amount or whatever. Like if you literally don't use any other app, but that app you use, then they get the full amount, or they get some fraction of that, basically, if you're using other apps. So I think that's where Setapp is actually good, because that kind of solved that problem.
Right. I think Setapp is a micropayments model with a twist.
Yeah.
We're in Olympics week, so with a twist and a flip, it's a micropayments model, and it works well. And another reason it works well is Setapp curates what it goes on. It just doesn't accept anything. So the odds are that you are going to. I'm always amazed at how many Setapp apps I'm using.
Yes.
And I'm delighted because I know that I'm supporting those developers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some apps have switched off of Setapp because it's at a certain point, at a certain scale, it is not working for you as a developer. Because you can make more money if you are not in there, because you don't have to, because people are willing to pay maybe more than the $10 or $15 a month for the service, and they don't have to share it. So if they charge you 15 a month or even 10 a month, but they don't have to share it, it's more to them. And if enough people are willing to do that, it's not worth it being in Setapp. And some have switched off, and I think are doing quite well. So, and others have said, I don't care. People can subscribe here, people can subscribe there. It's their decision. Like, we get some money, it's fine. It's whatever it is from Setapp is good enough. We're okay with it. So
we have a question in our chat.
Nice.
Yeah. Hopeful Disk. Any thoughts about free and open source software?
A lot of thoughts, because I do a lot of open source myself. I use a lot, and I also create a lot myself, and I contribute to it. I think my experience is mixed in one way, because I think I don't want to say for professional use it doesn't work, because there's a bunch of really good professional apps as well. But it is harder to as a developer who've done that, it's harder to build and maintain long-term a professional app open source. It's not impossible, but it requires a really, really, really good and strong community, because open source is a community effort. If it's a single person and they're doing it in their spare time on the side, they will burn out, because it's a side job for them. It's always going to be a side job for them. Unless someone else pays them to do the open source work, which does happen. There is some foundations that do that pay people to literally maintain the things, so that they can focus on it.
Is
WordPress,
a good example of that.
Yeah, Mastodon actually, for example, as well now. There's some foundations that support that. There's a bunch of really good things where that does happen, but it's not the norm. It's simply because of it requires a good, strong community and a lot of contributors to build a really good app. Usually, the single one, as I said, will probably not work long term. See that all the time. For bigger applications, simple libraries or whatever, that's fine. I've maintained a open source library for 10 years. It's not a problem, because it's like whatever, half an hour every couple months, fine, works. Every now and then Apple changes something, I have to update it. That's it. So that's okay, but for bigger apps, it's hard. But it has an important place, I think, in the Apple and in general in the ecosystem, because there are really good apps, open source apps, like the Espanso, for example, for text expander replacements. Probably is for sure not on the same level as text expander. 100% not. It's more fiddly. It's not as reliable, all of that. If you need something reliable, if you don't want to fiddle with it, if that's not your thing, just use Text Expander. Or one of the other options, there's others. But it has value. It's sometimes, what was it? Instead of Bartender, use Ice.
I switched from Bartender to Ice.
Yeah, me too. And I'm happy with it. So it has its place. You just have to keep in mind, this is done for free by people in their spare time. So think about how you could still. Don't just do it because it's cheap and it doesn't cost you anything. Sometimes figure out ways to support it, whether it's by money or by community support. I don't know, helping people with questions, fixing bugs if you can do development. Sometimes it's just, hey, there's questions in the issue tracker, and if you can just keep the questions in the issue tracker at bay, so the people who are developing it don't have to deal with it. Sometimes that's enough, or provide a translation or whatever you can, like whatever skill you have, and you can contribute an icon that's better than what they have, stuff like that. Keep that in mind. They live off a lot of people spending a little bit of time on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's freaking hard because I've been doing it for years, decades at this point.
And hopefully this asks about free and open source software. Patrice, just, what I guess, where is the line? If I'm an individual developer and I've released something for free, great. Yes. I mean, that may be that. Yeah, that may be something that I want to do to support the community. It may just be an ego boost for me to see that a lot of people are getting something out of my app. So there are a lot of
promotional tool so that people are aware that you make software products.
Amen.
It can be, or it can be someone like me who's like, I had fun building this. I didn't want to just build it and then forget about it. I think others could benefit from it, but I do not want to run a company. Been there, done that. I hate doing it. So I will, like, even if like sole proprietorship, self-employed, whatever, I do not want to deal with all the taxes and whatever. I literally just want to write apps. So put it out there for free. Use it, no expectations. Use it as it is. Like, don't come to me with support or anything like that. Also fine. You can do that.
Okay, but also being the paranoid person that I am, if you're looking at free software, make sure that you do just a little bit of research, because you know the old story. If you're not paying for it, you are the product. So make sure that somebody is not not just your email address or your public private information, but there have been apps that have been known to be out there. And maybe they're doing a little bit of Bitcoin mining in the background using your computer.
All of it. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a risk. Yes.
Yeah. You gotta go in with your eyes wide open to this, which is one reason that, I've gotten to the point now that unless I'm really familiar with the developer or they have been around the community, a piece of software has been around the community for a while, I would prefer to pay either subscription or, just one-time payment. I'd rather do that than, play with some of the open source stuff. And that, again, there's plenty of open source stuff out there that is very reputable, and it would have been discovered long ago if anything was wrong with it or dangerous about it. But do just a little bit of research before you just think, oh boy, that's great. That stock tracking app. That stock tracking app will solve all my investing problems, because you don't know who's getting it.
The stock tracking app from a company. The banking app from the company it's on GitHub and it has 0 people contributing it, and that's gonna be great for sure. No, for sure. It's here. You have to manage your expectation. You have to know what you're expecting. As you said, you're not paying for it, so do not expect support. Do not expect updates frequently. Do not expect anything of it. If that is fine for you, or if you, as I said, open source especially, you can contribute yourself. If it's free, I don't know, maybe you can help out some other way. Sometimes that's okay, but you should. It's on you then to make the decision, and it's on you to do your due diligence, because no expectations. Simply, the free means it's free. You cannot expect anything from them. They might steal all your data if you're not careful.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I don't know about you, but it feels like everything is a priority these days. And usually, they are everyone else's priorities, making it difficult for you to put your priorities in the mix where they should be. So how do you make sure that you are taking care of yourself? BetterHelp is how. Learn how to set those boundaries, develop positive coping skills, and take back control of what you do and when you do it. No more skipping over what you need in favor of what everyone else expects of you. BetterHelp can get you on the right track, whether you have been through a major trauma or just finding the daily grind a challenge. And if it sounds like just one more thing to squeeze into your busy day or week, it isn't. BetterHelp is all online, flexible, and suited to your schedule, so that right off the bat, you aren't stressed about learning how to deal with your stress. That would be counterproductive, wouldn't it? Getting started is easy. A quick questionnaire, and you are matched with a licensed therapist. Get started today. Never skip therapy day again with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/MacVoices today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/MacVoices. BetterHelp. Thanks to BetterHelp for supporting MacVoices.
Well, and to take it back to using WordPress as an example, free can also mean someone else is paying for it for you. And that's basically what's happening with the WordPress Foundation. All these other companies are paying their employees to contribute to WordPress core. And then, of course, there are people that volunteer their time as well. But someone is paying so that we can have that software for free.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the internet would not exist and would not work the way it does today without that. Because basically, I think every big company out there relies to some extent on open source. That either someone volunteered or someone else paid for it. Linux, OpenSSL, there's a million. I mean, I know it from what our company, what we're using. We're using basically all open source tools. There's a couple things that we pay for, but it's limited. This is how the world works today. So just because it is free, just because it is open source, does not mean it's bad. But you, as a user or as a company who's using it, have to do your due diligence and figure out if it's safe, figure out if that's long-term a good strategy for you to do that, and maybe other ways to also pay for it or contribute to it or keep it going. Which is what happens with WordPress. Like there's other companies who are saying, yes, I want this to be around and I'm paying for it so that others can also use it. That's how that happens. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big fan of open source. I'm a big fan of free software, like in general, because I think it's a great way also for some people to like let their creativity, like let their creative juices flow and do things that they that they enjoy doing. Like it's as I said, the internet basically relies on that. But you as a user have to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better like Chuck. Pay for it.
Hey, I'm doing it as a podcaster. I'm not charging anything.
And, it's true. We are.
Yeah, a lot of us are. So same place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why it's always important if you are in a position where you can spend some money on it, think about that. Even with free open source, with podcasts, with a lot of the other things, there's like all over our life, there is things like that where you can contribute to, where you can volunteer, where you can help out, and where you could pay for something, or I don't know, pay for someone to go to a conference, for like open source conference of some sort. Say, hey, I like your tool and I'll pay for your ticket. Here's whatever, $250. If you can't do that, why not do that? And this way is also sometimes it's not you're paying for the software, but you're not paying for the software directly. You're paying for the people who are building the software for you for free to have still fun at it and be better at it and all of that.
And you're giving back to the community.
Yes.
Much like TSO Host does.
There you go.
Yeah. And how is TSO Host giving back to the community? Well, what they're doing is taking the things that they do so well, web hosting, helping people buy domain names, stuff like that. And they're saying, hey, British Tech Network, we want to support you by giving you the resources you need so that you can do what you do. And so they're giving us the bandwidth to live stream multiple shows every week. They're giving us the hosting space, that there's a place for our website to live. They're giving us the server storage we need, so there's a place for all the show files to live, so you can watch or listen to recordings anytime you want. And the resources to do all of this, it takes a lot. It takes more than we would be able to bring together on our own, especially since we're talking about supporting open source. It would mean that everyone that's watching or listening to the show would have to start throwing a lot of money at the show so that we could do this. But TSO Host is saying, here you go. This is what you need. So take it and run with it, which is fantastic. Without TSO Host's support, we literally would not be able to do what we do. So we really, really appreciate TSO Host. Thank you, TSO Host, for doing what you do. All right, that's an example for you. I just said it. You can go on social media and you can thank TSO Host for being here and supporting us. It only takes a minute. And it's super easy to do, and it's a really great way to let TSO Hosts know that we all appreciate their generosity in supporting the British Tech Network. So please go do that. Only takes a minute. If by chance, though, you have come up with an amazing domain name that you just have to get, well, TSO Host does offer good pricing, so why not get it from them? You're going to get a good price. You don't have to like melt your head to make this work. They make it easy to get domain names. So why not use their service? Get that domain name in your cart. If you need web hosting, throw that in your cart. But then also add in the discount code BTN20 so that you get 20% off your order. So already good pricing, but you get a 20% discount on top of that, which is super generous. So thank you, TSO Host, for doing that as well. And Patrice, do you mind if I ask you to tell people about the amazing new live chat that we have that's in place because of your hard work?
No, it's not just because of my hard work. This is another example of open source software. This is like an open source project called Owncast, which is written by some amazing people out there that provides this live stream solution for us. So another example of a really good product out there. It was a really good question, actually. So we have the live stream, as we mentioned, the Owncast installation, and you can head over to live.britishtechnetwork.com to watch us live doing this show for free. There's no costs. Literally point your browser to this URL and you can see us when we're streaming, which happens every Thursday, 4 p.m. Thursday, 7 p.m. UK time. Yeah, we mixed up the days and the times. Thursdays, 7 p.m. UK time for the big show, which is our non-Apple tech show usually. Also doing summer fun there. We had a really cool topic yesterday where we talked about movies that we'd like to rewatch. Which was super interesting. There were some really highbrow and some really cool things in there. So listen to that.
We'll get surprising to that in a second. Considering the group.
Yes, very surprising actually. Very, very surprising. And Fridays, 4 p.m. UK time, this very show. If you want to join us, and all you have to do is head over to live.britishtechnetwork.com. It looks like kind of a YouTube live stream or Twitch or whatever. There's the window with the stream. If you're in a browser, bigger browser window, iPad or whatever. Phone looks slightly different, but there's a big window for the video. And then on the right-hand side is a chat where we get awesome questions like the one about open source. That's how easy that is. But if you cannot, by the way, in the chat, you can also change your name. There's a little purple thing up the top. If you want to change it, just click there, say change name, and it will remember it. So next time you join, it will have that. Or you can even do Fedi auth, it's called. So log in with your Fedi account. You get a code basically to your Fedi account, Mastodon, whatever. And then you put it in, and then it knows you, and you get a little check mark next to your name. So that's also pretty cool. Also, all open source. So cool software. Works really well as well. So good job. And but if just in case you can't join us live, you don't want to join us live, you're listening to this in recorded form, like, I missed the chat, I missed the links or whatever we put in there. There's a transcript for every chat, for every stream, for every podcast that we record, basically. And all you have to do is head over to britishtechnetwork.com/chat, select a date in the friendly calendar, anything. There's like June 2nd, 2015, we started doing this. And today is the 9th of August, 2024. And if you put in a date, you will see what was talked about in the chat. And the cool thing is, for the live chat, it's actually like real time. So you could head over to the page over there, and you will in real time see if we typed something. Just have to refresh every now and then. So it's not live updating, but if you refresh the page, you will see literally the messages that were sent. So it's actually pretty cool. As I said, all open source. It's all an open source tool that we're using there. There's nothing proprietary, nothing paid for. It's all open source, and I've contributed some fixes and some changes to them. So doing my thing. So that's it.
Awesome. Patrice, thank you for explaining that. Also, thank you for all the work you put in to get our live stream and live chat modernized.
Yeah, it was probably literally like 45 minutes of work. It was not that
for
much.
You.
45 minutes for me, that's true.
Yeah.
It was not that much. And most of it was changed to DNS, and like that was it. And then figure out how to get the chat back into our chat thingy. That was it.
Yeah, well, it's like the old story, refrigerator stops working. And so the fridge repairman comes out, looks at it, goes, yeah, and kicks the refrigerator down near the bottom, near the corner. It starts working again, and he gives the person a $200 invoice, and like, $200 to kick my refrigerator? This is ridiculous. So the repairman says, okay, I'll itemize it for you. $1 to kick the refrigerator, $199 to know where to kick.
Yes. I've literally told like people, I mentioned the translation thing earlier. I literally told those people, I'm like, okay, if you think it's that easy, I'll give you access to our repository and you can change it. Let's see how long it takes you. That was the end of the discussion, because they were like, they couldn't do that.
No, they couldn't. And you pay for someone's expertise and their experience.
Yeah, that's something I think for anybody who's done freelance work or anything. Remember that people are paying not for your time; they're paying for expertise. If it took you 10 years to learn it, then you should charge it appropriately.
I have had people complain, saying that I charge way too much to write, and if I didn't have all the experience and the skill that I have, I would not charge what I charge. Yeah. All right. Hey, we're out of time, so we need to wrap up. Thank you to all three of you for carrying a discussion where I could basically sit here and eat popcorn through the whole show if I wanted to. So yeah, thanks for that. Dave, where can people find you?
Like, find me at InTouchWithIOS, InTouchWithIOS.com. My YouTube channel is YouTube.com/InTouchWithIOS. We just had a great show with Kelly Gamet and Marty Gensius, and go check that out. As well as you could find me on Mastodon at DaveG65 at Mastodon.cloud. And I'm on the MacVoices live every Tuesday night. We'll be back finally. Been a 2-week hiatus, and glad to be back there. And I'm here on Fridays usually. Thanks.
Awesome. And Chuck, how about you? Where can people find you?
MacVoices.com is where you find me talking to all sorts of interesting people, including MacVoices Live with Dave and Jeff, and occasionally Patrice when she stays up late. We do that Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And on the socials, you can find me as at Chuck Joyner. Thanks, Jeff.
Awesome. And Patrice, how about you? Where are you hiding out?
Usually hiding out here, actually, and in open source projects. No, I'm here every week on the Big Show and the Mac Show on this very network. That Thursdays Big Show, Fridays Mac Show. Right now we're doing the Summer Fun. you can find out all the projects I'm doing, the open source projects, and like everything else I'm doing, all the podcasts, social media links, literally all of the above. You will not find a Twitter account there, but the Mastodon one. So open source, yay! On our website, which is also built using open source tools. I'm gonna mention that now. Thepatrice.com is the website. It's all open source. It's literally all open source. And I have a really cool podcast that we do for free. Open source, I don't know. We do for free with Jeff Gamet together. We just published another episode. It's called Retro Rewatch, where we rewatch retro shows. So a couple years, in this case, I think 26 years, 27 years old. We're rewatching it. So Jeff has never seen them. I have seen them a million times. We're rewatching Stargate SG-1. And we just published, what was it called? The First Commandment?
First Commandment.
10th Commandment. First Commandment. See, I can't even remember the title of the stupid episode that we.
Well, I remember
not the episode that we published
because I wrote the show.
Post. Oh, that's true. Yeah, but the stupid episode of SG-1 that we watched. So like, okay. So then we just published cool episode with us, but we had a lot of thoughts about this one. We're very early in season 1 still, so that's you can tell. Retro Rewatch with Jeff. Really cool show.
I have a lot of fun doing that show with you. Yeah.
Me too.
All right. So for me, social media, I'm Jay Gamet everywhere, and I'm active on Mastodon and Instagram. And then for shows, Chuck Joyner's MacVoices Live on Tuesdays, Dave Ginsburg's In Touch with iOS on Thursdays, here on the British Tech Network, Thursday for the Big Show, Friday for the Mac Show. And Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine. And as Patrice said, I am doing Retro Rewatch with her. And with that, okay, we're really going to wrap up now. Thank you to the three of you for being here. You are so awesome. And this has been so much fun. And I'm already looking forward to next week. And we haven't even gotten totally to the end of the show yet. But I'm already excited about next week. Then let's see. Hey, thank you to all of you who have been watching and listening live. So glad you were here. If you're participating in the live chat, thank you for doing that as well. Everyone that watches or listens to the shows later, thank you for being part of this too. I'm so glad all of you are part of the BTN family. And that family also includes Ewan. Ewan, thank you for being you. Muller, thank you for making sure we have people for shows. And Tiosa hosts, thank you for being here and supporting us every single week. Give them some online love and use that discount code BTN20, everyone. All right, so with that, everyone, join us next Thursday for the big show again, and then come back on Friday for the Mac show. And I hope all of you have an awesome weekend.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.